Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Perdue.
All right, hey, come on in. It's that time again for us to get some motivation and inspiration. Let's get fired up. Let's encourage someone to let them know that when something comes up in life we're not prepared for, even if we are prepared for it, something comes up and we know it's not what we want, there's still a good life to live after that. Hey, today our guest on December 13th, 2017 was diagnosed with breast cancer. That diagnosis was a wake up sleeper that never knew was within. All right, let's get to going here with this powerful message of overcoming breast cancer. Today, our guest is Sedruola Maruska.
Hi.
Hello, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm blessed to have you here today with me.
Thank you.
So we're all going to be blessed with you with your smiling face. For the ones on the podcast, you need to go check her out and get that big, beautiful smile she has. So that'll get you going during the day. So, all right, Miss Sadie. So bad news came with the diagnosis. My mother had, hers was lung cancer. But, whenever we hear that big C word,
yes,
it's got that hard connotation with it.
it really does.
No one hears it and goes, "Hey, okay." I mean, like a cough or a cold. Now you hear that big C word, cancer, and all of a sudden, and I had a diagnosis. Mine ended up being a false positive, but it makes you think a little different when you hear that cancer word. So, all right, Miss Sadie, I'm going to shut up for a minute and let you get on with your story, and we'll ask a few questions in between there.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Like you just said, you hear the big C word, and I don't know about everybody else. I just know what my experience was. And sitting in that office on December 13th, just like you said, in 2017, I didn't hear anything else my doctor had to say after that. I remember being very much in my head going, okay, calm down, be calm. You can do this. You can handle this. It's okay. And then, while my husband spent the time asking questions for me. And two questions really stood out to me at the time. Of course, you hear cancer and you go, oh my goodness, I'm about to be dead. And so what's going to happen to my children? My children at the time were 6 and 11. And so immediately my mind went to that. And I thought, oh, please don't let me go away from them at this young age. And then the other thought that came is like, okay, well, if I'm not going to die, if I fight this and I get through this, am I happy with what I'm doing with my life? And the answer came back, no, you're not. And so those were the things that I had to contend with at that moment. That same day, I had to go get a blood test. And I remember calling my sister while I was waiting to get the blood test. And I said, to tell her the news. And I said to her in that same conversation, I said, you know what? I really don't think this came to kill me. I think it came to teach me something. And I think my job is actually to just stay as open as possible to learn what it is that I'm meant to learn here. When we were leaving the office, the nurse said to me, oh my goodness, Jesus loves you, because we were able to get all of your scans in one day, which hardly ever happens. And it was the following day. That was even more impressive. So the following day after the diagnosis, I spent the day at the hospital getting CAT scan, MRI, bone scans, all this to make sure that there's no cancer anywhere else. Since I know that you probably know what that's like, since your mother has gone through that journey.
Yeah, and had that PET scan.
Yes.
Is that what it's called? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that they can check every major organ in your body to see how many fronts you have to fight. So if this is a cancer that is in one section, or if it has metastasized and now it is, in different parts of your body. And on that Friday, I got the call, the 15th, I got the call from my doctor that said, all of the scans were clear. It looks like we're only dealing with it in one area. And so that was an absolute blessing. And I was so grateful for that.
Yes.
And on Saturday, my family and I took off with another family on vacation, a vacation that we had planned a year in advance. And so I left cancer behind for a whole week and thought, it's going to be waiting for me when I get back. I don't need to take it with me and bother myself with it. I'm just going to enjoy myself. And at that time, we still hadn't told the kids because we wanted to get as much information as possible before we spoke to the children. And so we went on vacation. We came back on the 23rd of December. And as soon as we touched down on American soil and I turned my phone on, the buzzing started. All these messages for all the things that needed to be done. And so I met my oncologist on the 26th of December, 2017. And the plan at the time, the plan that we went with was that I needed to have chemo first. A lot of times with breast cancer, there's a surgery first and then chemo and then radiation. But because of the size and the way that my cancer looked, they needed to shrink it so that they wouldn't have to take as much skin and I would be able to have reconstruction because that was the original plan. So the plan was to go with chemo, the 8 rounds of chemo, starting on January 2nd, 2018. So the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018, all very whirlwind type deals.
Oh, yes.
And so I started chemo on the 2nd of January. And right away, we could see that the cancer was responding to the chemo. It was shrinking. Of course, I lost all my hair and all of the very fun things that happen when you're going through chemo. And I finished chemo in April of 2018. On May 1st of 2018, I went in for a double mastectomy, which was supposed to be a double mastectomy with reconstruction. So I also, at the same time, had expanders put in. And I say it that way because today I do not have breasts. I do not have implants. I have nothing. And that's because the left side of wouldn't heal, wouldn't stop producing fluid. So we took the expander out of the left side and we left it in the right side. The right side was where my cancer had been diagnosed. And I was starting radiation about 6 weeks after my surgery, because we had to let it heal a little bit before we started radiation. And so I did radiation on the right side with the expander in, and thankfully it lasted through that. But then right at the end, when I was done with radiation, and I was done with radiation in July of 2018, about a month and a half later, I developed an infection on that side. So we took out that expander. And around that same time, my doctor said, I'm going to give you a prescription for a prosthetic bra that you can wear until you can go in and get the expanders put back in and then do the reconstruction. And I said, great. And I went in to get this prosthetic bra and I'm looking around and I'm really contemplating this. I'm really thinking about this. I'm going, and I said to the lady there, I said, so you mean to tell me that I can just have my breasts on demand? And she said, yes, we can fit anything. We can retrofit anything to fit your prosthesis. So yes, you can just have breasts when you want them or how you want them. And I said, and so in my head, I thought, well, why then am I going to go through extra surgeries to do the reconstruction?
Okay.
I'd already gone through one surgery. No surgery is fun. So there was that. And I was 50 years old, or about to be 50 years old. I had 2 children that I'd already fed. And I thought, I don't necessarily need to have a reconstruction. So I made the decision after talking to my husband and made the decision not to have reconstruction.
Okay.
And that's where I am after that. And the cancer, the time that you have when you have cancer and you have to take care of yourself, you have to slow down, you have to allow people to help you, and you have to really go within with all these questions that you had. Remember that question that said, am I doing what I want to do? And the answer was no. And you have to really be open to what the possibilities are or could be. It gives you a lot of time to think. It gives you a lot of time to really evaluate what's happening within your life. And one thing that I really realized, besides staying open, was the need that we have to be so busy all the time, to move our bodies. Even if we're not getting anything done, we're moving. And that's one thing that I no longer subscribe to. I no longer move my body unintentionally. I no longer do things unintentionally. I take the time to do things because they're intentionally what I want to accomplish or what I want to do in that moment.
Yeah, it
So
seems like we're in a hurry to go nowhere.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there's things that got to be done. Yes,
Mhm.
there's things we choose to get done. Yes, there's things we got to do with our children or whatnot. I don't have children, but with children or not, of course, with my dog, I can say with my dog or whatever. But
Yeah.
again, it seems like there's things that there's a difference in what we really have to get done and need to get done than things that we think is more important, and we get in a hurry to really get nothing.
Yeah. So for me, it was about becoming very intentional about the things that I wanted to do, the things that I
Hmm.
wanted to accomplish, and what I needed to do in order to accomplish those things. And it wasn't about, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this in a mode that is very frenetic. It was more of, this is where I want to go. What is going to get me there? So I'm going to do this thing that's going to get me there. And if I don't get to it today, you know what? I'm going to give myself some grace. I'm going to be okay. I can do it tomorrow. Or if circumstances mean that I have to push it until next week, that's what I'm going to do. But
Hmm.
I'm not going to get stressed. Stress was one thing that I decided really needed to have no part in my life. So I'm not going to get stressed.
Amen, sister. Kick stress out every opportunity you get.
Yes. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do things just because I feel like I have to, I have to, I have to. I want to do more things because I want to, because this is what's going to get me to where I want to be. So I need to, but not, I have to, I have to, have to, have to, have to.
Hmm.
And, you know, all of those things I think were magnified after cancer. I think I had some inclination to them before, but they were really magnified after cancer. And I say a lot, I tell people a lot that cancer, what cancer did for me, it brought me front and center, front face to face with my mortality.
Hmm.
The thing is that we all know we're going to die because nobody's lived forever. I mean, if they have, somebody needs to show me who they are. But we're all going to die. And but we all live as if we're not. And what cancer did was it said to me, you are going to die and you're going to die someday. So the time that you actually have right now, you need to make the most of. It needs to be intentional. You need to use every moment that you have to do the things that mean the most to you. Spend the time with the people that mean the most to you and accomplish those things that really light up your soul, because you really don't have time to hate everything that you're doing, hate everyone that you're around. And then when something happens, you go, I wish I had, when you're on your deathbed, I wish I had, I should have, I really wanted to. You have to go, you have to consider that, you and I are sitting here having this conversation. And as soon as this conversation is over, God forbid, anything could happen. Your roof could collapse on your head. And there it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
My roof could collapse on my head.
That's
And
right.
there it is. So I don't say that so that we think about we're going to die tomorrow all the time. But I do say that so that we are aware of our mortality, that we are aware that the time that we waste is time that we can't get back. And so the time that we have, every moment that we have to use as wisely as we possibly can.
I'm thinking about when you said earlier that if you don't get something done today, hey, I got tomorrow. And if it's not overwhelmingly to me, I'll push it off next week if I need to. It goes back to the guy that who's it said, why put off tomorrow when you do it today? Hey, my little motto now is why put off tomorrow when I put it off for 6 months? Okay. And because I try little as possible to get stressed out over things. If it takes me a couple extra days to do things, hey, as long as it gets done and it's not hurting no one else, hey,
Right.
let's do it. Hey, Miss Southern Belle, thank you for coming in. We've met before here, and Miss Southern Belle saying to you nice information,
Ah,
and she's saying to
great.
you, right there, great advice.
Oh,
Thank you, Miss Southern Belle.
thank
Appreciate you
you.
coming in and meeting here with Sadie Maruska. So
Yeah.
thank you for coming in. All right, now let me ask this question here. We've only known each other here for 17 minutes and 13 seconds on the podcast, but you have a contagious smile and a laughter. And I'm wondering, did cancer bring this on? Did you change your life? Were you negative, or were you just always as upgoing, upbeat, and personality person here?
That that's a good question, and it is a question that I get asked often. And I'm realizing, I think that just as cancer magnified some of the other things, like magnified the things that you already know, I think post cancer kind of magnifies what was already there. And I say that because when I was going through the process, I would go to chemo every 2 weeks, and I would meet my nurses and we would do the whole thing. And one day I went in, I think it was maybe the third session, my third session, and the nurse said, she said, "Oh my goodness, I just love it when you come in here." I said, "Really?" I said, "Well, that's nice. Thank you." She says, "Yeah, because you're always so positive and upbeat." And she says, "And that's what's going to help you get through this cancer." And I thought about that and I was like, I just thought everybody was like that.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Or at
My,
least
my, my mom was like you. She was positive. Now, she didn't laugh as much as you do, but she's positive. Again, she's 82, and she just got out of the hospital a few weeks ago with pneumonia. 82 years old, pneumonia doesn't go well together.
no,
And she was in the
wow.
hospital and in rehab for 2 months before she
Mm,
finally got through. Her cancer was 17 years ago, 18 years ago, and she fought it. But it's who's can't think of the Zig Ziglar, one of his quotes and comments, and I don't know it per se word for word, but it's basically he said, being a positive person doesn't mean nothing's going to happen, no negatives coming, but it
right,
means you can handle it better than if you were a negative person.
right. I think what it does is that it allows you to look not at the negative part of it, but at the positive part of it, right? I say that if my cancer didn't come, would I be doing what I'm doing now? I don't know. Maybe I would have just kept going along the path that I was going, where I was just working a job because it was paying me a
Hmm.
paycheck. So cancer kind of shook that up, and cancer has really allowed me to think bigger for myself and for my family. It has allowed me to want bigger, to give more to the people that I know and to my family. And so all of those things, can I say that that cancer was horrible? What I went through was tough. There was pain, there was frustration, there was anger at sometimes, but at the end of the day, what it brought was more clarity, more intention, more positivity, if that's even a possibility.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think that it really just depends on how we choose to frame what's happening to us, how we choose to frame the things that come, because things are going to always come. But how do you frame it? And do you frame it in a way that's going to continue to keep you down in every moment? Or do you frame it in a way where you feel your feelings, you go through the experience, and then you say, but you know what? That doesn't define every experience that is coming. It only defines this moment. So it defines this moment. Okay, I'm going through it in this moment, and I'm going to deal with it as best as I can in this moment. But all the moments that come after that, I get to decide. I get to decide if I'm going to be negative or positive about them. I get to decide if it's going to be a thing that enriches me or a thing that pulls me down. And so that's where I think a lot of us fail. We think that we just have to go along with whatever comes and that we have no power. And my message is always, and in what I do as an equity and inclusion consultant, what I live with my family is that no, we are powerful individually. What we think, how we feel, the what we hold dear is important, and we individually can make amazing change in this world if we believe in the power that we individually hold.
I'm just sitting there thinking how what you just mentioned and hear the big, huge advice you're giving is not just for cancer; it's for any situation that comes in,
Yes.
and and how we're dealing with it and everything. And it goes back to this quote, and I told you I love it when I read it a while ago, and we'll bring it up now. You said we each hold a piece of the social puzzle. What
Yes.
we choose to do with it determines how the story evolves.
Yes.
Okay, whatever circumstance, how we determine to deal with it is going to determine, yeah, how it evolves and what's going to come, before or afterwards. So
Yes.
when I
Because
when I went through my little scare and everything, um, and then, when I first got the diagnosis, cancer and everything, until we found out otherwise later on, that it was, I other people say false positive. I say it's a God thing. I mean, because I had two tests to verify I had something going on. Now
yes.
you can say one test, it may be a false positive, or it may have been somebody put in the wrong information, or someone misread, or whatever. But we got two tests that are corroborating each other. It was a God thing to me, is what I feel.
Mm,
But
yes.
but I was telling people, and depending, and I'm not downing anybody particularly in things, but I tell people I've made this one comment, and just one comment can would would to me
Yeah.
would determine if they're a believer or not. And when
Mm-hmm.
I mean believer, I don't necessarily mean believer of life, living, death, and everything, believing in a God. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying which spiritual is over anybody else, just one I believe in. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell. And the thing, what I would say is, if I'm given, let's say they give me 6 weeks to live because
Yeah.
of what they found, I said that gives me plenty of time to go to the people that I love and tell them I love them and thank them for everything they've done for me in life. Now,
Yeah.
let's say you get in there and dig around and they say, man, you got 20 more years and everything. That gives me all the time to go to all my people I love and say, thank you for what you've done for me. And I love them. So I
Yep.
said, I told them I'm in a win-win situation. And again, depending on who you're talking about, they're either scratching their head or they're saying, "Yep, you're right."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, whatever time it is, it gives you that much time to figure out how to let people know you care about them and leave whatever it is that you want to leave for sure.
that's right. Well, man, this has been amazing. Yeah, I tell you, you got a story now. Let me ask Sarah, have you written a book on your experience through this yet?
I have not written a book, but you are also not the first person to say.
I
So maybe
here
the universe is trying to tell me something. I don't
you
know,
you need to write a book on it.
but
Okay, need to write a book. And again, it's you put in the good, the bad, and what they call the ugly. I
yeah.
mean, because if you just tell all the good stuff, people going through it reading it are going, well, I haven't experienced all this because they're dealing with the
Oh,
bad right now.
there is
You
some
got to
bad
have all
stuff.
that in there. Don't let someone tell
Absolutely.
you not. You got to have it in there. Okay. And what I ended up doing with mine, because I've written a book, other couple of books beforehand. What I did to make it easier for me is I journaled everything that day.
Yes.
Whatever happened to me that day, who I
Hmm.
talked to, whatever was talked about, and then the next day, whatever I didn't write down everything, just whatever big
Right.
happened that I
Right.
and then I just took the journal, boom, there was a book. It was basically done. So from there, but yeah, you
Well,
need to put this
I do
together.
have some journals since that time. So
There you
yeah.
go. You need to. It'll make it a lot easier when you're trying to go back and remember now what happened. Because mine actually goes like week one, day one, September
Yeah.
29th. Week one, day two, September 30th, and
Hmm.
went for 6 weeks with mine. So
Wow.
all
Yeah.
right, but and don't be afraid if it takes you a while to write your book. My first book took me 12 years to finally get it done.
Wow.
So don't think
Wow.
you have to get it done. And people say they
Look.
got this 30-day program. Uh, don't feel like you have to push in 30 days. It
Yep.
takes as long as it takes, and
Yep.
it'll finally get out there.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Sadie. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing your
Thank
story.
you.
And I know that someone's going to catch up on this with going through cancer, breast cancer particularly, and they're going to come to the YouTube and see your smiling face, and they're going to love you. And again, on the podcast itself, go look up this on YouTube, and you'll see how beautiful she is and how positive she is with her smile and her laugh, and go from there. Be sure to share this
Thank
out to
you.
everyone too. That this is don't think it has to be just cancer. Again, it's
Right.
substitute her breast cancer into spinal cord injury like me, or substitute into something. The message is still the same here, providing hope for you and stay positive. So, hey,
Yeah.
Sadie, tell people your websites and social media. They may want to question and talk with you.
I would love that. My website is diversitydish.com, and that is because it's the name of my podcast and it's easy for people to remember. So it's diversitydish.com, and there you can find information about my consulting, my speaking. You can find all of the podcast episodes, and there's also there a program that I have which is called Educate to Elevate, which is a racial sensitivity program that for anyone.
All right, awesome. And again, thank you for being here. Now,
Thank
Sadie, we
you.
know there's people hurting and struggling today. And if you can leave us with one final message, positive message, gold nugget that they can hang on to get them through today, that'd be a blessing.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I try to remember every day is that no matter what happens today, I can do it. I am capable. And so, no matter how heavy it is, just think to yourself that it's here to teach you something, and it's not here to really beat you down, but only to teach you something. And so, try to be open to the lesson so that the next day you can implement whatever lesson it is that you've learned. But, life is tough. There are tough roads, but one thing we need to remember is that we individually are so unique. There is no one right now who is thinking the thoughts that you are. No one before you or after you is going to be you. And so that special thing that you have, we all need. And so no matter how hard it is, just get through.
Get through. as they would say in southern part of the world where I'm from, they would tell you to hang in like a hair in a biscuit. So, all right. Now
Love it.
done learnt you something here. A hair in a biscuit. Hang in like a hair in a
You
biscuit.
did.
So, all right, Miss Sadie, thank you again for coming in. Everybody else, be sure to share
Thank
us out to
you.
someone you know that can use some inspiration, and she's a good one to learn from. Go to her, visit her website, any social media, do the old Google search, and you'll find her. So,
Yes.
everybody else, this is Dr. James Purdue, the Professor of Perseverance. Thank you for listening to the Professor of Perseverance podcast. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your